Thought, the one entity that we all humans have in common. We may have different bodies, different physical characteristics, even different way of thinking, but at the foundation of it all, there is thought, which is common to all of us. The suffering comes because we do not know what thought is. And this is the basic element of why suffering exists. There could be pain, but one need not suffer from any of the thoughts that they have. At the fundamental existential truth, thought is fundamentally a sound. Now, as we grow up, as we are born, we hear our parents and people around us talk in their own languages, and the brain picks that up. It learns, it absorbs all the information. Now, whatever language you have been brought up in, you know those words. Those words is what you currently think of as thoughts, because you're submerged in those thoughts. Those words have become your identity. But what you do not know is those words are just one form of thought. They are the outgrowths of a language that we ourselves have created. The one aspect that you need to be aware of is that the words that you use, or the words that you hear in your mind when you think, is basically a sound. And sound is the most fundamental creation of the universe. Now you wake up in the morning and you start thinking. What that means is your consciousness woke up with you. When you're asleep, the brain is still active, but you're not aware of whether you're thinking or not. There's a different level of the mind that functions when you're asleep. But once you're awake, it's as if you are activated, as if you are given access to all the thinking. We need thinking on a daily basis. There's no denying that. With that thinking, if there is awareness of what thought essentially is, then we would live in a very different way. You would live a very deep, high quality life, which is how it's supposed to be. Now that you have been identified so much with words that you know, if we take English as an example, there are a lot of words in English. Now you think in those words, and when any of those words do not go well with you, if any of those thinking that you're doing with those words do not go well with you, there is suffering. Now there is suffering with that because you are identified with those words and the statements that you make out of those words, and this is not being in touch with the truth. Because thought is fundamentally a sound, and when you have identified yourself with the words, that means there is separateness with the truth. The universe works in such a way that whenever we humans are not in sync with the truth, in any form, be it spiritual or psychological, there has to be suffering. But when you slowly come into the awareness that what you think is essentially a sound, it's not something that you need to fear. It's not something that will kill you. It's not something that will take anything from you. There could be circumstances that might happen, but when you're thinking, there's no danger in there. And most people are afraid of the thoughts that come up, and most of the thoughts, all of the thoughts, are of the past. There can't be a thought without the past. And the paradox here is you can't be here in the present moment if you are thinking always about the past. Thinking is the past. If we didn't know any language, they wouldn't be thinking in the form of words, they would just be images as a form of memory. But now the suffering happens because there is access to the past in the form of thinking, and there is access as well to the images that you have seen throughout your life. The combination of both, combined with the unawareness of what thought is, it's a recipe for disaster. But if you become aware that thought is not going to harm you, that thought is essentially a part of you, it's not separate from you, you move closer to the truth. You move closer to who you are. And slowly, as you become aware of what the thoughts are, your life begins to unfold in ways you cannot imagine. You start to see things that you would not have seen before, not just externally but internally also. And you'll start to understand what the mind is, how it functions. And you'll start to see that all the mind that we humans share is no different. The thoughts will be different, but at the base of it, it's the same. If you want to think about and understand what thought is, and actually have an experience about it, one thing that can be done is if it's raining outside, you can think of it as your thoughts, because in a compulsive mind, the thoughts are really quick. They're so fast, and people just tend to shift from one thought to the other, but they do not become aware of it. So the next time you hear rain, when it's raining, listen to the water droplets that are falling. When you really hear the rain, without any interpretation of it, just listening, pure listening, and you see that the rain generates a sound that you hear. But the fact that you're listening to it sitting here and the rain is happening somewhere else near you, but you're still able to hear it and it's not harming you, shows that you can do the same with your mind too. The thoughts that happen, you can watch it. You can look at the thought. You can look at all the thoughts that happen to you. Whether you're conscious, you're compulsive, it doesn't matter. But when you look at the thoughts that happen, just look at it. If you are getting a train of thoughts, be it about anything, you can just look at those thoughts, just as you would look at the rain, just as you would hear the rain. And when you start to do this, you will see that there's a choice of not being so identified with the thought, a choice of being in silence, a choice of seeing the mind that it's possible to be in silence and see the thoughts that are going on. And when you do that, and when you keep doing that on a daily basis, the thoughts do not hold that much significance to you anymore. The hold that the thoughts had on you, it becomes lesser and lesser as days go by. This happens because the truth of life is that everything is in unison. It's all happening at once. The suffering happens when there is separateness in any form. So when you think of thoughts as separate from you, and when you try to analyze them, the past is already in the picture. But when you get into those states where you look at the thought, you look at the thoughts that are flowing in your mind, then you are in touch with the truth. A truth that is the essential basis of existence of a human being. And you can only be in touch with the truth of a human being because that's the form that you're in. The awareness that you can just watch the thoughts, the thinking, that's enough. That's the only tool you have. No matter what psychology says, no matter what other people say, what you can essentially do is just look at your mind, not analyze it, not let your own thoughts tell you what a thought is, but just observe. Observe so deeply that the mind itself becomes silent. Maybe the next time you are in a shower and the water from the shower is falling on you, and after a while you step out of that. There's silence in that moment. But what that shows you is that if you see the rain and the droplets from the shower as your thoughts, and you have the choice to step out of it, just that subtle stepping out of that, and this subtle stepping out of thinking, that gives you a different kind of perspective where you watch it. You watch it as if it's not you initially. You watch it so that you disidentify with what the thoughts are initially. But as you keep watching, you will see that the thoughts are not different from you. Now what has been happening is, there's so many thoughts, there's so many words, there's so many statements, so many assumptions that you have become identified with the words and of the thought itself, but you're not in touch with what the thought is. And when there's a stream of thoughts that are flowing and it affects you, and which is what we have been calling overthinking, and most of the mental health diseases that occur is an outcome of not being aware of the mind. When you become aware of the mind, when you see that the thought that you think is not different from you, and when you slow down, you will see that the thoughts have no power over you, and you and the thought are no different. In essence, you are the one who is generating those thoughts. You are the one generating those thoughts because you are the one who is essential for the existence of those thoughts. The universe has provided you that entity to use as a human being, but you have been using it without being aware of what you're using. But once you're aware of what a thought is, that it is essentially a sound, and you keep observing it, it'll come to you that you're the one who is generating each and every thought. You're the one who has always been generating each and all those thoughts, feeling all those feelings. This coming home to who you are is the real solution to all your problems. It's the real solution to all the sufferings.